as well as we also had a warrant article to pay for the injured firefighters' medical expenses. And what happens with with those capital awards, in order to finance them, first we usually get short-term notes to pay for the items, and then when everything is done and we know the total cost of everything, then we go out to bond the completed projects and do one bigger bond issue rather than small bond issues. So you can see that we had pretty favorable rates. We had went to 2 banks, got 0.45% annual interest rate from Century Bank and a 0.5% annual interest rate from Eastern Bank. And on the medical expenses, we needed $250,000 to cover the medical expenses. And that's a taxable bond, so the interest rate's a little bit higher on it. It's also a taxable ban, also a note, so it's 0.7%. And if anybody would like to make a motion on that, or if you've got any more questions on it, I'll be happy to answer them.
So the short-term financing, is that just to bridge the gap between when we want to do something and when we actually get the bond approved?
Yes. Yeah. Usually we wind up going out, a bond anticipation note can be, I think, up to 2 years in length. Usually there's 6 months to a year. I think these are being issued as a 1 year, and the reason for doing it as a 1 year is with the thought process in mind of perhaps doing a recall on, remember a few meetings ago we talked about recalling some of the bonds that were higher interest to issue them for lower interest, and they're not callable right now, but they'll be callable, or I think there's one that will be callable in a year from now. So if that is the case, then we can roll everything into one. So that's why the year time frame on these short-term ones.
And I know we have some annual expenses, for instance, the medical expenses for the firefighter.
Yes.
Is that a short-term? Is that short-term financing every year?
No, that it does eventually get bonded. But again, it's because it's an operating expense and not a capital expense, the interest on those bonds and the interest on those short-term notes are taxable to the people holding the notes. Therefore, the interest rate that you can issue them at is a lot higher than the interest rate that you could issue a non-taxable note at. So somebody like to make a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to award the $1,388,584 Town of Milton, Massachusetts General Obligation Bond Anticipation Notes Municipal Purpose Loan of 2012, dated October 2, 2012, and maturing October 2nd, 2013, as follows. $5,000 to Century Bank at a net interest cost of 0.45%, and $888,584 to Eastern Bank at a net cost of 0.50%.
I think that was 500,000.
It was 500,000, yeah.
Second motion.
Okay, motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Mr. Chair, I move to award the $250,000 Town of Milton, Massachusetts General Obligation Bond Anticipation Taxable Medical Payments Notes dated October 2, 2012, and maturing October 2, 2013, to Century Bank at a net interest cost of 0.70%.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
I have one question. So how long are these bonds for? Is it 5 years? Or?
The bonds are of varying lengths. I don't remember what we bond the medical costs at. Do you off the top of your head? I don't honestly remember. But the capital bonding ranges anywhere from 5 years for, like the telephone system, for example. When we bond it, we'll be bonded a 5-year bond. The We can bond, I think, motor vehicles, bigger motor vehicles, up to 15 years. It's allowed by the state. And, you know, something like land or a building can be as much as 40 years.
40 years.
So these will be of varying lengths when they finally do get bonded. Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, item 6 on the agenda is the approval of the Town Hall Ethernet cabling and the backup generator power bids. And I know Jim Scroy is out in the audience. You want to come up, Jim? How you doing?
Good evening.
Yeah, if you just want to explain to us, I mean, I know basically what's going on. We did approve the a generator for Pierce, I believe, and a generator for Town Hall.
Right.
And I think the Capital Committee also approved the recabling of just the town office
This building, correct.
And you went out and got bids, and these are your suggestion for the bid awards. And could you just explain, you know, who else bid? Because I don't think we had that in our packet. And
Oh, okay.
what the different bids were on the various things.
Right. We had three vendors pick up packets for the Ethernet cabling, and on the bid opening, we had one vendor submit his bid, and that was E2 Telecom for $57,998. Was it
Yeah.
41 cents?
Nobody else submitted a bid?
Nobody else submitted a bid. No. We did have the other vendors walk through the building, and they picked up packets, but they didn't show up for the bid opening.
And no idea why they didn't submit?
I had reached out to a couple of them. One didn't respond back. The other stated that he thought it was more wiring, electrical.
Okay.
So, I mean, they knew it was to do Ethernet cable, but for some reason, he thought there was a little bit more wiring involved. It was an electrical contractor, not a telecommunications
Okay.
contractor. So, E2 Telecom was the only vendor.
So can I just ask, so what happens when you just get one bid? Do we accept it, or?
We can accept it under 30B. If you do your due diligence and reach out and nobody responds, you can accept the only bid. You can also choose to rebid it if you want.
I mean, we were looking at close to $70,000, and this came in at $57,900, so.
Who came up with the 70,000?
That was when we originally, the cost estimate to recable the town office building with the up-to-date Ethernet cabling.
Yeah, but who came up with that 70?
We had gone out and asked, you know, what an estimate would be to cable a building of this size with over 200 Ethernet drops.
From electrical companies, or?
From telecommunications.
Telecommunications
Yep.
companies?
Yep, correct. So that's how we came up with the $70,000 figure. And like I said, $57,900 came in as the lower bid.
And what's the difference in the Ethernet that is going to be run in the Ethernet?
The Ethernet that we have here now was put in, I want to say 1995, 1996.
Okay.
And it's called Cat 5,
Yep.
Category 5 cabling. This will be Category 6, which will help us out when we put in the new phone system, and for any future computers, printers, anything we do on our network, it will speed the process up, and it will put us ahead in the future for any other equipment
Okay.
that or technologies that come along.
Okay.
So we should be set for quite a while with the Cat 6 cabling.
Okay. We can have to buy new switches also for those, or
Pardon me?
new switches also, or just the cabling?
The cabling, the switches will come with the phone system.
Okay.
That will
Power switches.
power over Ethernet switches.
Mhm.
So our whole infrastructure will be replaced, from the cabling to the switches to
Okay.
everything.
Okay.
And when did Cat 5 or Cat 6 come on board?
Oh, few years back.
Oh, it did?
Yep. Yeah, it was Cat 5, then it was Cat 5e, then Cat 6. Yeah. So it's just the type of cable, how the wires are twisted inside, that it gives a little bit better signal pass-through. So we're positioning ourselves for the future.
I think it's a great idea. Money,
This actually was the first cabling back in '95 that I was involved in.
oh yeah,
Getting the first contractor, because there were no computers in the building back then. So that was the first task we had to do, was to cable the building in order to allow networking.
Amazing.
Yeah.
If I can, Jim, let me ask you a question that, due to recent events, has entered into my mind when I see town office building generator. For some reason, historically speaking, it seems that there's certain parts of this town that lose electricity more than other parts of the town. Specifically, East Milton, I'd say, has a better track record of keeping their electricity than this area of town.
Right.
And case in point is only a few days ago when the town office building went out of electricity. Do we now, or will we soon, have the capability when town hall loses power to operate off of generators, our own power, so to speak?
That's
Is that what it is?
That's what this is all about.
That's what we're talking about?
Yes.
Okay, and then, so then, can I assume that it doesn't exist right now?
No.
When,
There's no generator power here at all.
when town hall loses electricity, when will it be able to come right back on because of generators?
It will-
When might that take place?
It's instantaneous.
Yeah.
What they do is they put a transfer switch in, so as soon as you lose
Okay,
end-star power.
okay.
the-
And when are we going to be equipped with that?
Oh, timeframe?
Yeah. Ballpark.
Well, the estimates I received were ordering them probably 12 weeks. They're not off the shelf, from what I'm told, items.
Yeah.
So once we tell them that we want the generators, they go ahead and order them, and they're built for our building here.
That would be good. Because like
So-
last week, we lost power down in Central.
Right.
Then up at Town Hall.
Well, we lost power here
Then-
2 days ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's, I'm sorry, I meant 2 days
Yeah.
ago. And then that evening, up, farther up the road,
Mm-hmm.
lost power for over 2.5 hours. It seems to be, and I don't know why, but more towards this side of town that
You're right.
loses power.
You're right. I mean, I live off of Adams Street, in between the East Milton and the Lowell Mills area, and we lose power quite frequently.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Different areas. Yeah.
Different areas, right. And this building, just a little sidelight, there's 2 legs of power that come in here. So the other day, one leg went completely out,
Okay.
and there was like partial power, but it was
Well,
almost
it's losing electricity up there.
almost
All the
like,
Damocles is hanging over your head.
That must be N-Star. Doesn't matter what I'm saying. What?
we'll fix that in the morning.
and Jim, if I could ask one question. So we have a generator coming here.
Correct.
And a generator going to the Pierce. Is it to the Pierce or is it to the Comcast?
It's going to well, at the Pierce School, but it's the Comcast location. It's right at the studio, right at the corner of
Right.
Lincoln Street there. There's a studio
The
there.
MPEG studio.
Right, in the
Yeah.
corner, that's where all of the fiber runs from every building in town go to. That's why we have a core switch there. That's what runs the phone system. That's where we have our firewall for the computer system.
Yep.
And that's where the Comcast internet line resides. So all these years, we were without any power there, any power here, and then we went to the voice over IP phone system. Whenever we lost power, every phone went out, town-wide. So this is going to be a terrific
Yeah.
thing for the town.
I guess my question is it for the actual MPEG studio?
No.
Or is it for the Pierce School?
No, it's just, this generator is sized just for the circuit that powers up that corner of the building,
But mostly for the computer equipment.
mostly for the computer area.
Okay. Is there a generator in the Pierce?
I don't believe so. I think the only,
The fire
I
station
don't want
and
to speak for
police
school,
have
but I think the only school that has one is the high school. I think, but I'm not sure.
And police have one, and I believe
Police.
fire does too.
Both fires, yeah. I'm not sure about Atherton, I think, but
And these are gas power generators?
gas, natural gas. No, I'm sorry. These are diesel.
Diesel?
Diesel.
Okay.
And I have just one more question, if you don't mind, Tom. How are we going to pay for all this?
This is part of the ban we just voted. That was part, this was all part of the capital equipment that was voted for in last annual town meeting. So it's part of that 1.4 million or 1.3 million.
The one we just voted,
This
okay.
is Article 7.
I got you.
And bids on the other two generators?
Right, on the town hall, we had a high bid of 114 and the low of 89.8.
Okay.
And on the Pierce, we had a high bid of 64 and the low of 28.5. That's a big spread.
That is, yeah.
Right.
Just
Yeah.
two bids? That was it?
Two bids, yeah, two vendors. And for the town hall, we have Lesorto. And for the Pierce, we have FM generator. Richard T. Lesorto Electrical.
I'll entertain a motion if somebody would like to make one.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve the following recommended bids by Technology Director James Scroy for the Ethernet cabling and backup generators at the Town Hall. Town Office Building, Ethernet cabling, E2 Telecom Company Incorporated, 85 Summer Street, Rentham, $57,998.41. Town Office Building generator, Richard T. Lesorto Electrical Services Incorporated, 244 Liberty Street, Brockton, Mass., $89,880. Comcast room generator, FM generator, 35 Pequot Street, Canton, Mass., $28,500.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all is in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Great,
Thanks,
thank
Jim.
you. Thank you very much. I believe these, actually,
Yeah, Item 7 on the agenda is the Art Space Milton project, and Frank is supposed to be here to... Is Frank here?
No.
I don't see him. You want to skip that?
Yeah.
And we'll come back to it later if Frank does show up? Okay, that's fine. But whoever that is not here right now either, I take it. Okay. Item 8 on the agenda is the approval of the October town meeting warrant. And if you look, we have an index of the ordering of those articles. So article number 1 is going to be unrestricted general government aid appropriation, which is basically that excess money that we had because state aid came in at a higher number than we had predicted for estimated revenue. Item number 2 is the sewer capital needs appropriation, and that is because money did become available in that program from MWRA, but we did not have a warrant article that gave us the authority to borrow it, because I believe those are interest-free loans. Item number 3 on the agenda on the warrant is the 2012 annual town meeting appropriation reductions. And, oh, that's the...
That's the MWRA assessments, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, for water and sewer.
Right. When we had Joe Lynch in setting the water and sewer rates, what we approved in the warrant last at annual town meeting was based upon estimated numbers that MWRA gave us for their assessment. Their actual assessment came in lower than what those estimates were, so we're basically reducing our appropriation down to the actual MWRA assessments.
Is there any savings? There is a savings.
Is to say
Do we see it? Do we see it, or?
It's very, very
Very
minor.
minuscule,
Yeah.
yes. It's slight savings, but
Yeah, it probably won't even be felt on the tax rate. But it is slight. Article number 4 is the Elliott Street property demolition appropriation. We're still waiting for information to come in for the T so we can put out request for proposal for the demolition. We have not received that yet, so that's what's holding that up. But that will be that article. Article number 5 is the citizens petition for a zoning bylaw amendment for a landscape/residential planned unit development, which is the property up on Blue Hill Ave. Item number 6 is the amended zoning bylaw for the assisted living residence development down in Randolph Ave. So that's the ordering of the articles, and we basically just have to move to approve those.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve the index of the warrant articles for the October 22nd, 2012 town meeting as presented, as you just presented them.
Second.
Motion been made second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all is in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. And there's a second motion there to actually approve and sign the October 22nd town meeting warrant.
So moved.
Okay, motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all is in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay. Do we have somebody here yet? Okay, item number 9 on the agenda is the discussion of adoption of a remote participation at public meetings. Basically, the Attorney General wrote some regulations to the open meeting law about a month ago. And one of those regulations was Code of Massachusetts Regulation 29.10. And it allows, because up to this point, if a person cannot make a meeting, there is no way for that member to remotely participate in the meeting by telephone or video conferencing, or it was not allowed under the law. You were either here or not here. They did change it to allow, if the town so votes to adopt it, to allow remote participation either via conference call or via any kind of video conferencing.
Skype, yeah.
Yes. And the only requirement is that, number one, that there has to be a quorum present at the meeting. So if you don't have a quorum, then you can't fill a quorum by a remote.
Okay.
Okay. Secondly, there are only a few purposes for which it's up the chair of the whatever committee it is can decide whether to allow the person to remotely participate or not. It's the chair's call, or if it's the chair that's not here, then whoever's acting as chair has the ability to make that call. And the reasons you can do it for are personal illness, a personal disability, an emergency, not really defined, military service, or you're just away at a geographic distance that you couldn't make the meeting. So it's fairly broad. And I don't see that we'd be using it a tremendous amount, but if we do approve this, it will allow any committee, not just the Board of Selectmen,
Yeah.
to have remote participation. It does seem to make sense to me, especially in those emergency situations, or if there's an important vote on something that you want to make sure that you have, full representation of the board. It probably does make some sense to have it there and allow the chair to control whether to invoke it or not.
So are you saying that the Attorney General already approved this? It's just up to each town, is it?
The Attorney General has written regulations, because basically the open meeting law falls under the Attorney General's purview. It used to be under the district attorneys in the various counties to police the open meeting law, and it was switched about 2 years ago, give or take, from the district attorney's offices to the Attorney General. So now at least you get a more even-handed enforcement of the open meeting laws, where before you had each different district attorney's office, you could potentially come up with different answers to the same violation. And the regulations that were written were proposed by the Attorney General and then adopted by the legislature.
And are they being filtered out now to, like this one here, filtered out to the different cities and towns, asking them to either buy in or not?
Yes,
to
that's
this?
the way the regulation was written.
Yeah, but I'm saying is that what's going on right now, that this remote participation is going out to all your cities and towns to ask them to consider it?
I don't, well, the state I don't think did that, whether Mass Municipal
Mass
Association
Municipal.
may have put
Is
it out that way, yes.
Putting it out?
Yeah, I mean, the state just writes the regulations, and it's up to you to find them.
I've never been on any board where there's been remote participation. I suppose that considering modern technology, that it's perhaps a coming thing. Do you know if, okay, so a member, let's say they're ill, they can remotely participate, let's say conference call. Can they still vote?
Yes, and that's another thing.
And is
All-
that
all
up to the
votes have be-
chair?
What's that?
Is that up to the chair of the body?
Well, the chair decides whether the person will be allowed to remotely participate. So it's the chair's call. So in case of the selectmen, it'll be me. And planning board, Alex,
Yeah.
The other thing is any vote taken has to be a roll call vote when you're remotely participating. So it'd be more like an executive session vote where you poll everybody. And the only other requirement is that everybody in the meeting room must be able to hear the person who's remotely participating. Or if it's a video conference, everybody has to be able to see and hear the person remotely participating.
Is Mia recommending it? Is
Well,
Mass
Maya is just our
Municipal-
insurance,
Mass
not
Municipal?
MMA. Yeah.
They recommending it?
Yes, they sent it out. There is one addition, Mr. Chairman. If you do approve this tonight, it is for all boards and committees and commissions, as you said, except for the retirement board.
That's correct, yes.
The retirement board does have to vote this in themselves if they so choose to want to adopt it.
And does this also include like the school committee?
It's for every board.
Every
committee,
board except retirement?
Except for retirement board, yes.
And I just noticed here that, yeah, sorry.
I was just going to say, should we seek input from the other boards before we act on it?
I mean, it's up to you. Again, whether we do it or, well, if we don't do it, then nobody can do it. If we adopt it, then the board can choose not to
Oh, the
invoke
board
it.
itself can, oh, okay,
Up to the
Yeah.
chairman,
okay.
Can choose not to what?
Not to invoke the,
Yeah.
not to participate.
Well, we
in
can
it.
also revoke it
You
if
can
we find-
revoke it,
yes.
yes.
if there's a
Mhm.
misuse of it or an abuse of the,
That's right.
doesn't mean you can stay at home from now on, Tom.
no, I know.
What?
Be nice, yeah. Sit and watch the meetings and you.
Yeah.
A glass of wine and, yeah, perfect. So in any event, the motion would be to vote pursuant to 940 CMR 29.10 subsection 2A to allow remote participation in all subsequent meetings of local public bodies in the town of Milton.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, do we have the person for? Oh. Go ahead.
I'll go.
Let's see, item 10 on the agenda is, okay. All right, why don't we move back up then to item number 7 on the agenda, which was a discussion of Art Space Milton project, Milton Facing Forward. If you'd like to come up and join us,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
just state your name and,
I'm Michael Chinman. I'm involved with Art Space Milton along with Frank Schroth, Janet Gilmore, and Cheryl Tugayas.
okay. And why don't you just explain a little bit about what the project is and,
Well, Our Space Milton is an organization that our motto is "The town is our canvas." We've put on different displays and exhibits in the town, and we are planning now 3 different displays or exhibits, all on the theme of Milton Faces Forward. So they'll all involve faces of Milton, different ways of portraiture. And one of the 3 components of that, they're all separate, but our hope is that they'll all be going on at the same time in different locations, with sort of a cornerstone of using the gazebo right in front of this building we're in the nighttime hours, after dusk until whatever time seems appropriate, for a projection exhibit. So if you picture the gazebo, I forget how many spaces there are that make it up. I think around 8 or so.
Probably.
So 3 of the spaces that face the road, and those are the spaces that have a railing that shorten the space a bit compared to the other side, would have a screen hanging there in the space that permits rear projection. So instead of the projector being on the same side of the screen as the audience, it's on the other side of the screen. Which our hope, it could be right in the middle of the gazebo, and our hope is that the gazebo will glow at night, displaying these portraits of people from Milton, faces of Milton, taken by Milton residents. So there'll be 3 going. The pictures won't be moving pictures, but it'll be changing. If you picture the different panels, will have different pictures on them. And I think if you can picture that in your mind, I think it's just going to be a spectacular exhibit that will really draw a lot of notice, and will just be, I think, just a great thing for the town. And our plan would be to do it on 3 non-consecutive nights in October. And at the same time, as I said, there'll be other presentations, displays going on, all involving portraiture. But this is really the kicker, the cornerstone, that one that I think people take notice of. And the gazebo, I think, would be an ideal place because it has the framing for the screening. It's a lot of people will see it, and it has the electricity available for the projectors. There's some details still to work out. For instance, the screens themselves, you can buy very expensive rear projection screens. There's a website that recommends actually using wax paper and a basket weave, that once it's nighttime and the projection is on, you can't tell, according to this website, that it's wax paper. You can't see the lines. And it's supposedly just a really great temporary rear projection screen. I don't know if we're going to use that, but
Now, so that'll just be a blank screen, basically, and the projector will have the actual picture in it that will be projected on to the...
right, you know, the kind of projectors that hook up to a laptop.
Yep. Yep.
We've done some experiments at night and to see how they project and how they're visible. There's just some amazing things you can do with those projectors. They're small, but you'd be surprised how powerful they are. But there would actually be 3 projectors,
Yep.
3 screens.
And then just kind of rotating pictures, portraits
Exactly.
throughout.
Right,
Yeah,
and there'd be someone from Our Space Milton present and running. They'd be hooked up to a laptop.
Are these going to be photographs, or are they going to be...
Photographs.
Okay.
Portraits of Milton people or by Milton photographers.
It's fascinating. Fascinating. My only concern would be the public safety concern, but
Yeah.
has anybody thought about that?
Oh, we definitely thought about that.
Okay.
I'm sure you did.
I think it's going to be something that people take note of. I don't think it's going to be something that will be so startling or cause car accidents any more than a concert in that gazebo that takes place all during the summer. I mean, that certainly draws the attention of passing motorists too, but it's not considered a public safety issue. These screens are the space, I think the screens are about 5.5 by 5.5 is what we predict them to be. they'll be noticeable, and then people will enjoy
Yep.
taking notice of it. I don't think they're going to be startling or, what's that? You know, and so that you lose control of your car. You know, I don't want to minimize how cool it's going to be, because I think it's going to be cool.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's not going to be something that,
Dark.
yeah, especially at night. I just picture the gazebo having a glow to it with portraits, and, you know, if people pull over and want to watch and see whose face comes up next, and I know that person, and that's my neighbor, and that'd be great.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds very fascinating, it really does. I think you're right, I think it would look really, really unique out there,
Striking.
yeah. So, at this point, you're still in the process of working out the details on it? And
Not every detail's worked out, but certainly the big picture has been drawn, and we need to figure out how to do every small detail.
And in terms of the 3 consecutive nights?
No, they're non-consecutive.
Non-consecutive nights, I'm sorry. Just kind of spaced out throughout the year, or?
No, this is all in October.
Oh, no, all in October.
Yeah.
October 5th, 12th, and
Okay.
26th.
Okay. Okay, I see it, yep. Okay, for about 2 to 3 hours each evening?
Yeah. And
And
the
would the screens would be taken down every night? of
Absolutely,
course.
right. The only change to the gazebo that we require is taking the flag down during the display, which the flag is just hooked up onto,
Front part.
excuse me?
Is it on the street part? The flag, where is
The
the
flag is hanging from the center, not exactly the center, but it's inside the gazebo.
Oh, yeah.
So it's hanging in a position that it would interfere with the projection. But, you know, taking the flag down after dark is by no means any kind of disrespect to the flag. That's actually
Right.
what the regulations say you're supposed to do.
So you'll come back to us when the details are final, so that we can...
Oh, I hope not. I mean, as I said, we're talking
At this
about...
point, I don't know if we have a motion to approve this, but...
How do you feel about it? Do you feel like you support it? And
I certainly support it personally. I am slightly concerned about the traffic thing. I guess I would like to run it by
Chief
the
Willis.
chief of police first, just to make sure he doesn't have a problem with it. I think it sounds like a tremendous project. I really like the idea of it. I think it's going to look wonderful. So my only concern, it's my sole concern, would be, is there any potential?
Could we,
Vote it
could we make it
subject
voted subject to, yeah?
to- Subject
Yeah.
to approval by the
I
chief
guess we
of
could do that,
police?
sure. So if somebody would like to make a motion on that. Okay.
What are we making a motion on?
For a gazebo reservation for art space, Milton?
Milton
Yep.
facing forward. That you're supporting a public arts project sponsored by Art Space Milton entitled Milton Facing Forward, contingent upon approval by the police chief.
To be run on 3 non-consecutive nights, 2 to 3
October
hours.
5th, 12th, and 26th.
October 5th, 12th, and 26th.
Mhm.
Okay,
I'll second,
So moved.
so moved.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay. You got a second?
Second.
Okay, motion been made and seconded. Now, if we vote it this way, because we voted October 5th, 12th, and 26th, you're kind of stuck with those dates. And we can change them, but we'd
Well-
have to revote it. That's all.
In the event of a rain date, or?
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
if you wanted to propose a rain date, or,
those are our dates right now. If we have to, for some reason, change them, and I don't know
Okay.
why, but if we do, then I guess we'll have to come back.
that's fine, okay. All right, so motion been made and seconded, again, subject to the approval of the chief of police in terms of the traffic safety. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all is in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Approval of collective bargaining agreement, Milton Clerical Union. Anne Marie, you want to just
This-
summarize this?
Yes, this is the collective bargaining agreement for the Southeastern Public Employees Association for fiscal year 13, July 1st, 2012 through June 30th, 2013. The increases in wages is at 2.25% on July 1st, and their incentive is one guaranteed personal day.
So again, pretty much in line with
With all your other
with the other
settled
unions that
contracts, yes.
we've settled so far. I think the police were at 2% and 0.5% on June 30th, and a little bit of an increase in the differential.
Yes.
So very similar in terms of dollars.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve and sign a collective bargaining agreement between the town and the Southeastern Public Employees Association for the period of July 1, 2012 through June 30th, 2013.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all is in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, approval, the acceptance of gift acceptance from Success Real Estate to the Council on Aging. This is a gift from Thomas O'Neill Jr. of Success Real Estate to the Council on Aging of $1,000 in memory of Elaine Kelly. And I know, Dennis, you had a little bit to do with this, I think, or...
Well, Tom O'Neill from Success called me up, and he just wanted to show his appreciation to the Council on Aging. And he asked me what could he do, and I said, well, why don't you donate some money? We can always do with the money.
Yes.
It always helps.
Mr. Chairman, the Director of the Council on Aging, Marion Sullivan, is
Marion, you
here.
want to come up?
And I knew Mary Ann wouldn't refuse it.
You could use some money, right, Mary?
I could use some money.
Hey,
How you doing?
And so
Good, good. So I'm extremely grateful for Tom. Tom and his wife Mary have always been strong supporters of what we do at the Council on Aging. And when Dennis gave me a call, I said, the best place we could use that money is for our gas fund. I don't have to tell anyone at this table how expensive gas is. We have 5 vehicles. The town allots us $8,000 a year. By the end of November, and it might be a little earlier this year, that money is gone. So Tom's donation will go strictly to the gas fund for the Council on Aging, and we're extremely grateful. Will help a lot of people.
Now, did you just have your, have you had your
No,
inauguration?
see, I'm very glad you mentioned that, because I
Okay,
came
just wanna
prepared. I
okay.
don't come often. If I'm here, usually it's about budgets or something, but tonight is not. So if I can just take 2 minutes of your
Sure.
time. The Council on Aging, in 2010, we did a cost estimate of what our transportation program cost, and it runs $73,000 a year. The town allocates $25,000 a year, so the rest has to be fundraising. Without the support of the Copeland Family Foundation, you know, as you approved their $25,000 donation, and the fundraising from the Friends of the Council on Aging, we couldn't survive. We couldn't provide 900 van rides a month to Milton seniors. So the Friends have always had a golf tournament for the past 15 years. There was just, I think after 15 years, Philip Driscoll and I had just run out of speed. So last year, one of our new board members, Maureen Conlin, suggested a Fit for Life walk-run. We did it last year. It was successful. It brought in $4,000. This year, Maureen has gone above and beyond with, you know, really done a great job of getting the message out there. The date is going to be Saturday, October 6th at 9 a.m., starting at the Senior Center. You can either walk it, run it, or if you're a senior, you can just go around the parking lot. It's $25. You get a T-shirt, and I'd like to thank Tim Fallon of Fallon Ambulance for once again paying for our T-shirts. And it's just going to be a great event. We have some sponsors. We're going to have signs along the way. We're going to have a raffle. We're going to have refreshments, and all proceeds from it, the Friends will put towards the transportation fund. So
Great.
I'd like to support it. And just one more thing, and then I'll leave. I don't know if you've been by the Senior Center lately, but we have been one of the few buildings that haven't been beautified, such as the town hall or the library. And a Milton resident, some of you might know her, Deborah Trickett, the captured garden. She stepped forward. She's an accomplished horticulturalist, you know, well-known all over the state. She lives up on Hawthorne Road, and she came by the senior center with her son Zach, and she planted the most beautiful, beautiful flowers in the front of our building. So I would just like to publicly thank her for her time and her talents, and the seniors walk in the building, and the comments I hear, it just makes me so happy to see the flowers there. So I think she did a great service, not only to the seniors, but to the town of Milton, and I'd like to thank her on behalf of my staff and all the seniors.
That's wonderful, very generous.
It is very generous.
Okay.
All right, thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Mary Ann.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to accept the check in the amount of $1,000 from Thomas O'Neill Jr. of Success Real Estate to the Council on Aging in memory of Elaine Kelly.
Second.
Okay, motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, item 12 is approval of United Nations Day proclamation.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve and sign a proclamation recognizing October the 24th, 2012 as United Nations Day.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, approval of Fontbonne Academy's annual breast cancer walk. This is a 5-mile walk. And where does it go? I guess we don't know exactly where it goes.
Oh, here it is.
Oh, there it is. So it's Center Street, Brook Road, St. Agnes Church, Adams Street, by the post office, Bryan Ave. Basically goes up by the hospital and back around. Okay.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve a request from Fontbonne Academy to use the town's streets and ways for its annual 5-mile breast cancer walk that is scheduled for Sunday, October 14th from 9 a.m. until 2 p.m., contingent upon approval by the police chief.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all is in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Item number 14 is something that we basically, last meeting, they didn't come in time, the Temple Shalom did not come in time with a sign request, couldn't get it on the agenda. We did kind of give them our verbal okay to do it, but this is basically housekeeping to actually formally vote the approval of that temporary sign request. So the motion would be to approve as
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the display of a 5-foot by 5-foot blue and white sign announcing the Jewish high holidays in front of the First Congregational Church, the temporary home of Temple Shalom, through the end of September.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all is in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, item 15 is the town administrator search process, and I do see we have one member of the committee out there. Actually, Laura, if you want to come up, because I think part of this discussion we might want your input on. And
Good evening.
how you doing?
Good evening.
We've been batting around whether to hire a consultant or not hire a consultant. I did have a discussion with Anne Marie this afternoon, saying, do we really want to spend the money on a consultant? We've got a really, really good committee. Leroy's got plenty of HR experience, more than he probably cares to.
Cares to admit.
And then we've got, who are the other members of that committee?
John Carroll,
John Carroll,
Town Manager, Norwood.
Yep.
You have Kevin Keating. you
Bill
have
White.
Bill White.
Yep.
And hopefully tonight you're going to appoint Mary McNamara as your Town Government Study Committee appointee, who's an attorney. So you have a wealth
Yeah, it's a very
of
strong committee.
Assets on that committee, some dynamic.
And I think the only thing we were really looking for a consultant to do was outreach, to kind of be there if the subcommittee had technical questions. I don't anticipate there will be a lot. And to do the kind of background checks and the, checking of references and whatnot.
Yes.
Yeah, and Anne Marie has said that she has done that in conjunction with, who's the,
Well, I work with a company when we hired the former town administrator, the fire chief, the police chief, the town accountant, any of your department heads. I've done the queries and the background and the financials for all those individuals.
Mhm.
So you could continue to use that same company for the background and the financials, and the queries done obviously by the state.
It'd be considerably cheaper than,
Considerably cheaper. The Town Government Study Committee, I believe Leroy is spearheading, putting together a job description for the town administrator's position, which hopefully once he gets into a good final draft form, we could put before the Personnel Board for their review and comment as well. So I don't think we would need to have a consultant to do that.
okay.
In today's world with the intranet and people being able to Google and go out on the World Wide Web, they could learn enough about our town without having to put forward a brochure that can get quite costly to send out as well.
So I guess, what do you think?
Well, I agree with all of what Anne Marie just said. I think the key question for the selectmen is whether the consultant could provide sourcing expertise, which means that you have to assume that some of the candidates that we might want to hire are presently employed. And if the consultant has relationships with those individuals and could get them to raise the level of interest in this particular position, that would be worth the price of admission. But in terms of developing a draft job description, screening resumes, doing background checks, I don't think you want to pay a high hourly rate for that. I think we can manage that ourselves.
Mhm.
So I think the real question is, based on the consultant RFQs that you have, whether they have that kind of sourcing expertise.
Yeah, I don't really know. I mean, it wasn't, if they do or not.
Yes.
I mean, typically that would be, the quote-unquote headhunter,
Exactly.
Yes.
that is
Exactly.
usually a commission type of arrangement
Right.
based upon
You
salary.
either have a contingent search, which is if you find someone you get paid, or a retained search where they get paid whether they find someone or not.
Mhm. So,
And you could have your advertisement, the contact information go to the consultant. They could rate, and as Leroy said, do the screening, the initial screening, and then put forward the candidates they believe worthy to the screening committee. I know that if you read these proposals, a couple of those consultants do that.
yeah. Now, I'm just wondering if, because we certainly don't want to limit ourselves to having one headhunter necessarily just do all the, I mean, if we're going to be putting out our own search ads, then we're potentially going to, we don't want exclusivity, I guess.
Correct.
And again, my only knowledge of this is, when I hire accounting personnel, it usually is you sign a contract, it's exclusive. You hire Robert Half and they,
Well, that's correct. If you do a retained search, even if we source the candidate, they get paid.
right, right. And, whether that's done, if it's done as a commission, it's usually a fairly healthy commission. It's usually
30%
of comp.
first year's compensation, roughly.
Yeah, so we'll be talking, probably something in the range of $45,000.
That would be correct.
Wow, that's a lot. Well, I think the committee that's appointed, including yourself, Leroy, just like you said, Tom, I think they're more than capable of doing probably much more than what any consultant could do. What you said about the resources that the consultant could bring to the table. I recently sat down with the chair of the Board of Selectmen in 2 different towns just to get an opinion. And they both had the same thing to say, that the consultants, they seem to have this group of people that they move from town to town. And they last 2 years and then they're gone to the next town again. That's what we don't want. That's what we don't want in a consultant. So I'd be in favor of taking the risk of putting the ads out there and trusting our committee to come up with a pool of people, narrow it down to 3. And if we're not satisfied, we could then consider hiring a consultant.
Okay. Now, Leroy was basically saying, we're doing the search piece.
Right.
So we're going to find we being the committee, is going to basically search out the candidates. I think what Leroy was saying was some of those candidates may be employed someplace and may need some persuasion that consultant could perhaps
Sway.
Yes. And that is basically a salesman job.
Right.
If you've ever dealt with one of those guys, they're high-pressure, fast-talking salesmen. And they can be very convincing. I'm sure, I've gotten calls over the years, I've got the perfect job for you, 5 times more salary, and then, so on and so forth. But, so I guess the committee could start its process. We wouldn't have to necessarily hire the person immediately if we start running into problems of not being able to persuade people to move from one town to another.
Well, I think that's right, and I think the other thing that the committee could do is work with each of you, including Anne Marie, and put together what I would call a networking list where you talk about individuals that you have a relationship with in other towns. You do the same, you do the same, you do the same.
Yep.
We contact those individuals. Hey, I'm calling on behalf of Tom Hurley. We're looking for a new town administrator. Any ideas, any people we should talk to, either for additional network sources or potential candidates. So I think I think it's fine to start that process on our own, see how we do, see if we're satisfied with the quality of the candidate pool. If not, then talk to consultants, perhaps about a slightly different relationship than they've proposed, but one in which they take the lead on sourcing, but they then have a clear responsibility to produce some quality candidates that we weren't able to source.
Yep, okay. I think it makes sense.
I think that's a good move.
All right, so are we saying that in terms of a new town administrator, that we're going to start the process on our own and then continue it without a consultant unless we feel the need?
Right. If we're not able to generate either in terms of size or quality the candidate pool that we want,
Yeah.
then we would say to the consultants, here's what we've done.
Yeah.
Tell us what you can do that would improve on the quality of this candidate.
Originally, when I was thinking consultant, I was trying to fulfill a goal in my mind, which was to get the best qualified individual to be the new Milton Town Administrator. And I felt in order to achieve that goal, that the largest possible pool of candidates was necessary, or would be most beneficial.
I think that's still sound reasoning.
And it also sounds to me like you feel capable of moving ahead.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we have the capability
Yeah.
to do a lot of what they would do.
Good.
So then the only question is, as I said earlier, if they have particular relationships that we don't have, where they can pull candidates
Sure.
who are currently employed and happy where they are, if they can pull those candidates, that might be worth the price of admission. But I think we should see how we do. This is a town, this should be a job that sells itself. So I think we're going to get some interested candidates and some quality candidates.
And then in terms of job description, can we start moving in that area
Well,
to
they're
get like
gonna
a
do that.
draft?
Leroy has
Yeah,
already
I
started.
think we
put the
at
process.
our last meeting, which was last week, we agreed to expedite that. So I think we should have something for you to respond to.
Yeah.
Rick is going to provide something probably by end of next week. So you
I
can take
just
a look at that.
think
see.
too, and this is just an initial feeling, that you have your specific job description, but it has enough language in it in case you wanted to step outside the box with an individual.
Well, I think you've actually put your finger on what I think is the key question for the selectmen. What's the scope of this position? It could be what it is now, it could be narrower, it could be broader. And I think that's, that's what you're going to have to grapple with and I think answer fairly quickly, because once we start this recruitment, any candidate worth his or her salt is going to say, okay, so what's the job?
Yeah,
Tell me what I'm going to be doing. What do I have under my scope of responsibility? And, you know, that you have quite a bit of flexibility with regard to that. So I think that's going to be the key question for all of you.
And I think to a degree, it's, you know, the government study committee is in place. We haven't heard, obviously, any recommendations because they haven't really been formalized yet. We, you know, we do want to take the government study committee's recommendations to heart and implement what we can, what seems to make sense. Some of that may mean town meeting approval. Some of that may mean home rule petition. Quite likely would if we change, significantly change what the town administrator does. Certainly if we change the town administrator to a town manager, we would definitely require home rule petition. There are some responsibilities that we as a board could give to a new town administrator that the next board could take away, and that wouldn't require anything other than a board vote to, you know, allow the new town administrator total control over hiring and firing. It would still be, by our charter, we would still be the ones responsible, but we could delegate that responsibility if we wanted to. I mean, there's a lot of different things. So there's a lot of things, a lot of different ways you could go with it. But to make it permanent would require town meeting approval and a home rule petition, you know, even small things. That being said, I would definitely like to see, my idea of a candidate would be that kind of person that would eventually become something more than what the job description currently is, that has that potential. I guess I'd rather see somebody, well, and I'm not trying to age discriminate, but somebody with more energetic, more younger, rather than a 30-year, you know, town manager someplace.
We'll just strike that from the record.
And I'm not saying that I wouldn't consider anybody, but it's, my candidate may not even be a town administrator or a town manager someplace else, but somebody that has the potential to, somebody that has the education background, somebody that has the drive and the ambition to be that. So.
I think what you said was very fair. Okay, Selectman, tell us what the job description is. You're appointing us as a committee.
Right.
Tell us what.
Well,
Tell us.
I don't have that authority, but I think it is.
Basically, tell us.
It's an
tell us what
important
the
question.
Sure. And I think, you know, like let's say Hingham, I think you can go on the web and you can start and you can look at what you have now. Current contract language describes various functions and so on. So that can be reviewed. Review town administrators in other communities, what their job entails, and then I think maybe we can come up with
Yeah, and
description.
that's actually how I pulled this together. Rick Neely, who never throws anything away, had drafts from Dedham, from a host of other
Yeah.
communities. So
I'm sure
what I
that's
tried to
helpful.
do was take the best
Yeah.
from each of those. But
Yeah, that certainly would be interesting to see what other towns similar to our size, what authority town administrators have, you know. And I think you're going to see it varies all over the
Right.
lot. And maybe pick the ones you like and, you know, think about going forward with them. But like I said, in order to make it permanent, it's town meeting approval and home rule in most cases. Any questions for Leroy?
Well, I actually sat down with the person I appointed, Bill White, maybe a week ago, and I let him know what I was looking for in a town administrator. I think it wouldn't be a bad idea. Maybe if you did the same with your
Okay.
appointee, and I know Leroy was your
Yep.
appointed person. And the fourth person is John.
John Carroll,
He
From-
basically knows because he is a town. Is he a
Yes.
town manager?
he's a
Yeah,
town manager in
Norwood.
Norwood, yes.
And then our fifth person tonight would be Mary McNamara.
Yes.
Maybe you can sit down with her, Tom, and let her know, or maybe Leroy can let her know what Tom is looking for in a town administrator. And I think you guys should get together and put all our suggestions on the table, and you pick the 10 or 15 criteria that we're looking for, and go with that.
I suspect we're all looking for largely the same thing.
It's all the same thing, exactly. So you probably have 50 things on the table. You pick 10 or 15. 40 of them will be the same.
Well, I think this draft that we're going to get to you next week will start that discussion. And
Mhm. It's great. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Have you guys been, as they say on Saturday Night Live, talking amongst yourselves?
Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
the Town
Committee.
Government Study Committee?
No,
No,
the
the screening
screening
No,
committee.
we're waiting,
We're
we're
waiting
waiting
Yeah,
for.
it really hasn't.
After you
This
appoint your fifth member
appointment.
this evening,
Right.
I'll reach
No,
out
we
to
haven't
the
talked.
committee and set a date for a meet and greet, and
So you'll have a committee, and
Have to
you'll
be
have a
sworn
chair
in.
of that committee.
Right.
they'll appoint their chair, yes.
You'll
at
appoint a
that-
chair, and then
Have to be a swearing-in process and all
Yes.
that.
we'll go for it then.
Actually, John Carroll came in today and got sworn in.
Oh, did you really?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
He came up to the office this afternoon.
Great.
But I feel very confident in the committee, I really do. I think, I've worked with Leroy on the school committee, and I don't think you could get a more competent person heading up this committee, or at least one of the guys heading it up.
Pressure's on.
Okay, great. Thanks, Roy.
Thanks.
Okay, and then we have one more order of business, and that would be to appoint the fifth member of the Town Administrator Search Committee, and that would be the Government Study Committee member. So the motion would be to appoint Mary McNamara as Town Government Study Committee representative on the Town Administrator Search Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, now it's that time when we go into executive session. So I am going to propose a motion to enter into executive session for the purpose of discussing strategy with respect to negotiations with union personnel, to investigate charges of criminal misconduct, and to discuss the purchase, exchange, lease,
Take care.
or value of real property, believing that having these discussions in open session would have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the body, and return to open session only for the purpose of adjournment. Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Kahane?
Yes.
Mr. Hurley, yes.
You
We
did
are
the
in
second.
executive.
Hasn't been
You did the
seconded.
Yeah.